My name is Olivia, I'm 35, and my husband cheated with my younger sister while I worked 60-hour weeks at my accounting firm. Before I tell you about how I exposed their affair and systematically destroyed their perfect lives, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. For 7 long years, Nathan and I lived what everyone called the American dream. We met back in college, two ambitious young people with big plans. We fell in love, got married, and meticulously built a life that seemed utterly flawless from the outside. A beautiful, spacious apartment in a desirable neighborhood, 2 reliable cars, annual vacations to exotic places, we had it all, or so I believed. My career as an accountant was my passion. I poured every ounce of my energy into it, often clocking in over 60 hours a week at a top-tier firm. My routine was a well-oiled machine, up at 5:30 a.m., a quick but intense workout, and then straight to the office by 8 a.m., ready to tackle complex financial statements and deadlines. Nathan, 37, worked in marketing. He always seemed so supportive, so proud of my drive. In the early days, he'd surprise me with homemade Sunday dinners, leaving sweet, encouraging notes tucked into my lunchbox. He was my rock, my biggest cheerleader. It was idyllic, a perfect partnership. The kind of love story you read about in magazines. But then there was Cassandra, my younger sister, 29. From the moment she was born, she was the undisputed golden child. Our parents, Richard and Martha, never missed an opportunity to remind me. Cassandra is prettier, Cassandra is more charming, Cassandra is just so much more interesting. I spent my entire life chasing their approval, striving for recognition that always seemed to elude me. I worked twice as hard, achieved more, yet still felt like I was constantly falling short in their eyes. Despite the subtle sting of their favoritism, I loved Cassandra. I truly did. I financially supported her through college, paid her rent during her many stints of unemployment, and was always there when she needed a bailout. I thought we were sisters, bound by blood, by shared history. Little did I know, that unwavering love, that deep-seated loyalty, would become the sharpest, most agonizing knife plunged into my back. The foundation of my perfect life was already cracking, imperceptibly at first, then with a terrifying speed I couldn't comprehend. The subtle shift started about a year ago. It was like a slow, insidious poison seeping into the roots of my life. Nathan stopped making those thoughtful Sunday meals. The sweet lunchbox notes, once a highlight of my workday, simply vanished. I brushed it off, telling myself we were both busy, focused on our careers, on building our future. But then, Nathan's client dinners and team happy hours became more frequent, stretching later and later into the night. And Cassandra? She started showing up at our apartment with alarming regularity, usually when I was still at work. She'd just drop by, she'd say, for a coffee, or to borrow something. Our close friends, Rachel and James, my ride-or-die best friends from college, started noticing it too. They'd exchange glances, subtle nudges, but I was too immersed in my work, too trusting in my marriage, to see the glaring red flags. Cassandra would even insert herself into our friend group gatherings, uninvited, her eyes lingering on Nathan a little too long. Nathan's appearance underwent a jarring transformation. Suddenly, he was buying expensive new clothes, getting trendy haircuts, joining a pricey gym. He started coming home smelling of rich wine and a perfume that was definitely not mine, a scent I couldn't place, but one that clung to his shirts like a silent accusation. The late nights escalated to 3, even 4 times a week. Big project, he'd mumble, or need to finish this campaign. His phone became an extension of his hand, always guarded, always turned away from my gaze. One night, I woke up at 2 a.m. I saw him in the living room, bathed in the blue glow of his phone screen, furiously texting. When I asked what was wrong, he jumped, startled, like a thief caught red-handed. "Just work," he stammered, his eyes darting away. The next morning, his phone was password protected. That was a red flag I couldn't ignore, a screaming siren in the quiet of my once peaceful home. Rachel, bless her intuitive heart, started gently hinting about Cassandra's strange, almost possessive, behavior around Nathan at our social gatherings. She saw the truth long before I was ready to face it. The truth, when it finally hit, wasn't a gentle whisper. It was a sledgehammer to my chest. It came not from Nathan, but from James, Rachel's husband. He called me, his voice tight with urgency, asking to meet at the Riverside Cafe. My blood ran cold. I knew, deep down, something catastrophic had happened. When I sat across from him, his face etched with concern, he didn't mince words. "Olivia," he began, his eyes filled with a raw pity that made my stomach churn, "Nathan and Cassandra have been sleeping together for months." He slid a thick, manila folder across the table. My hands trembled as I reached for it, my fingers brushing against the cold, hard reality contained within. Inside were hotel receipts, dated and precise, with their names scrawled on them. Photos, undeniable, sickening photos, of them entering and leaving hotels, their faces too close, their smiles too intimate. And then, the text messages. Hundreds of them. My eyes blurred as I scanned through the vile exchanges. Nathan complaining about me, his wife, his partner, "She's so boring, always working. I need someone who understands me." Cassandra, my own sister, whining about her boyfriend, Alex, not being ambitious enough, how Nathan was everything she ever wanted. The words twisted in my gut, a bitter bile rising in my throat. It was sickening, a betrayal so profound it stole my breath. James explained he had stumbled upon them at a discreet restaurant during a business meeting. His gut told him something was wrong, and he started digging. He was meticulous, relentless, and his findings were devastating. The financial betrayal was a separate, equally agonizing blow. Nathan, the man I trusted with everything, had been using our joint credit card, the one linked to our shared college fund and savings, to pay for their illicit rendezvous. He'd booked fancy dinners, weekend getaways, expensive gifts for Cassandra, all on our dime. And Cassandra? The sister I had always financially supported, who had borrowed money from me countless times claiming financial hardship, had used my money to buy gifts for Nathan. They had a plan, a cruel, calculated scheme. They were going to leave me and Alex, Cassandra's unsuspecting boyfriend, after Nathan received his substantial year-end bonus. He had already begun subtly transferring money into secret accounts I had no access to, accounts designed to disappear when he made his grand exit. The audacity, the sheer, unadulterated cruelty of it all, was beyond anything I could have ever conceived. I didn't cry. There were no tears, no dramatic sobs. Just a cold, hard knot of fury tightening in my stomach, a burning ember of resolve igniting in my soul. In that moment, sitting in that cafe, staring at the shattered remnants of my life, I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. I was so terribly wrong. The pain, sharp and searing, didn't paralyze me. Instead, it forged something new within me, a cold, methodical resolve. There were no tears, no hysterical screams. Just a chilling calm. I didn't confront them. I acted. My first move was to secure my financial future. I walked into my bank, my head held high, and opened a new account, solely in my name. I immediately redirected my entire salary there, ensuring every future paycheck would land safely in my own hands. Then, with a steady hand, I transferred the bulk of our joint savings, the substantial college fund we'd meticulously built, the down payment we'd saved for our dream house, into my new, secure account. I left just enough in the joint account to avoid immediate suspicion, a calculated move in my silent war. I spent hours on the phone, calling every credit card company, systematically removing Nathan as an authorized user from all our accounts. For the joint card, I drastically lowered the credit limit and set up immediate transaction alerts for any activity. I contacted our investment firm and, with a few firm words, froze our joint brokerage account. I even withdrew $2,000 in emergency cash, a small but significant act of self-preservation. I was systematically dismantling his financial world, brick by brick, piece by calculated piece. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed a shark. I called Elena, a trusted friend from law school, who immediately recommended Jessica, a renowned divorce lawyer, known for her fierce reputation and unwavering dedication to her clients. Jessica was sharp, efficient, and understood the nuances of the law in our state. She explained that while adultery itself might not be a major factor in our state's divorce proceedings, the wasteful dissipation of marital assets due to the affair was a game-changer. Thanks to James's meticulous evidence, the hotel receipts, the photos, the damning texts, we could prove Nathan had squandered our joint funds on his illicit activities. Jessica got the divorce papers ready in a blistering 48 hours. Our plan was simple, yet devastating: serve Nathan at his workplace. Maximum impact, maximum humiliation. I stayed at Rachel and James's place, maintaining a facade of normalcy, texting Nathan that I was working late and staying with colleagues to focus on a big project. He had no idea the meticulously planned storm that was brewing, the precise, surgical strike that was about to hit him where it hurt the most. Nathan, meanwhile, started to sense the shifting sands beneath his feet. He tried to access some of our joint accounts, only to find them frozen or with drastically reduced limits. He called me, his voice laced with agitation, asking if I knew what was going on. I played dumb, feigning confusion. "Oh, really? That's strange. Maybe a bank error?" I'd say, my voice calm, almost innocent. He'd mutter about calling the bank, clearly frustrated, but he couldn't pinpoint the source of his rapidly dwindling financial control. He even tried to check my phone, but I'd changed my password, a small, satisfying victory. He was scrambling, trying desperately to cover his tracks, unaware that I was already 10 steps ahead, meticulously orchestrating his downfall. Then came the unexpected alliance, a twist I hadn't foreseen. Alex, Cassandra's unsuspecting boyfriend, called me. His voice was raw, devastated. He had discovered that Cassandra had been financially deceiving him too, using his credit cards to buy lavish gifts for Nathan, racking up a significant amount of debt in his name. He found the statements, the receipts, the undeniable proof of her betrayal. He was furious, heartbroken, and utterly humiliated. He wanted to help. He had even more evidence of Cassandra's lavish spending, her manipulative lies, her calculated deceit. We met in a quiet coffee shop, and he handed me a flash drive. It was a goldmine of information, texts, emails, even some recorded phone calls where Cassandra brazenly bragged about her new, exciting life with Nathan, her plans to leave Alex, her utter disregard for his feelings. This was the final, devastating nail in their coffin. Nathan, in a desperate attempt to regain control, had even filed his own divorce papers, with punitive terms, believing he had the upper hand. He was so smug, so confident, so utterly blind to the trap he was walking into. He had no idea what was truly coming. The day of reckoning arrived with a chilling precision. 3 days after Jessica finalized the divorce papers, detailing Nathan's affair with my sister and his financial transgressions, the process server walked into Nathan's office. It was 2 p.m., the perfect time, right after lunch, when the entire office was buzzing with activity. I was across the street, sitting in a cafe, sipping my latte, watching. I saw the server approach Nathan's cubicle, a discreet but unmistakable envelope in hand. I saw Nathan's face drain of all color, his eyes widening in disbelief. He stood up abruptly, knocking his chair over with a loud clatter, and practically ran out of the building, a pathetic cardboard box of personal items clutched to his chest. He was pale, sweating, utterly humiliated in front of his colleagues. The sight was a balm to my wounded soul. That evening, he showed up at Rachel and James's house, pounding on the door like a madman. He looked utterly disheveled, his hair a mess, eyes red and swollen from what I assumed were hours of desperate phone calls and futile attempts to salvage his crumbling world. "You humiliated me," he screamed, his voice hoarse with fury. "Sending those papers to my job? What kind of monster are you?" Then, his tactics shifted, a desperate, pathetic attempt at manipulation. He suddenly broke down, sobbing hysterically, claiming it was just a mistake, that Cassandra meant nothing. The tears were fake, the remorse hollow. I just laughed. A cold, hard laugh that surprised even me. "I have all your texts, Nathan," I said, my voice steady, devoid of emotion. "All the plans for your future together. Don't insult my intelligence." His face contorted, a mixture of fear and pure hatred. He became terrifyingly calm, his eyes narrowing to slits. "This isn't over, Olivia," he whispered, a chilling threat. "You have no idea what you're doing." But he was wrong. I knew exactly what I was doing. The fallout was immediate and chaotic. Cassandra, consumed by rage, started calling me, leaving a barrage of furious voicemails. "You always hated me," she shrieked. "You never wanted me to be happy. This is all your fault." Then, the enablers stepped in. My parents, Richard and Martha, called, their voices laced with a sickening blend of disappointment and accusation. They demanded I forgive my sister and preserve family happiness. They claimed Cassandra just made a mistake and I should be the bigger person. That's when I dropped the bombshell, a truth I had kept buried for too long. "You knew," I told them, my voice flat, devoid of the emotion they expected. "You knew for months about Nathan and Cassandra, and you said nothing. You enabled her, just like you always have." There was a stunned silence on the other end, a silence that spoke volumes. Their complicity, their betrayal, cut deeper than any wound Nathan or Cassandra could inflict. Cassandra, in a fit of desperate rage, tried to confront me. She didn't come to my office, knowing she'd be denied entry. Instead, she waited for me in the company parking lot, her face contorted with fury. "You always hated me," she shrieked, drawing stares from passers-by. "You never wanted me to be happy. You're just jealous." It was a public spectacle, exactly what she deserved. Alex, who had been waiting for me, stepped forward. "She used my credit cards, Olivia," he said, his voice loud enough for Cassandra to hear. "She racked up huge debt buying gifts for him." Cassandra's face twisted in a mixture of rage and humiliation. She lunged, but Alex stepped in front of me, a protective barrier. I just watched her, a strange, detached calm washing over me. Her desperation was palpable, a testament to her crumbling world. Nathan, still reeling from being served, made one last desperate attempt to regain control. 3 days after the papers were delivered, he waited for me in the company parking lot. He was dressed in an expensive suit, trying to project an air of calm and authority, but the dark circles under his eyes and the tremor in his hands betrayed him. "These things happen, Olivia," he said, trying to sound reasonable, almost philosophical. "Marriages fall apart. People find connection elsewhere. You needed someone to satisfy you." His words were a calculated insult, designed to provoke. That was it. I didn't think. I just reacted. My hand flew up, and I slapped him across the face. The sharp crack echoed in the quiet lot. His eyes widened in shock, a flicker of genuine fear in their depths. "You know what your company thinks about you using our joint money to fund your affair?" I asked, my voice low and dangerous, a whisper that carried more weight than any shout. He flinched. He tried to threaten me, muttering about legal battles and how I'd regret this. But his words were hollow, lacking conviction. He knew I had him. I then revealed I knew about his secret accounts, his hidden expenditures, the full extent of his financial deceit. The tables had turned completely. He was the one trapped, cornered, not me. His smug confidence had evaporated, replaced by a raw, desperate fear. The dominoes fell swiftly, a cascade of consequences for their deceit. Alex and I had already sent an anonymous, but meticulously detailed, email to Nathan's boss, complete with irrefutable evidence of his misuse of company credit cards for personal expenses related to his affair. Within 48 hours, Nathan's company launched a full-scale internal investigation. I received a quiet call from a contact there, confirming the gravity of the situation. A few days later, I saw it on the local news, Nathan being escorted out of the building, carrying that same pathetic cardboard box, his face a mask of utter defeat. His career, his reputation, gone. Cassandra suffered a similar fate. Her boss, alerted to her inappropriate use of company resources to communicate with Nathan during work hours, fired her. Their perfect lives, built on a foundation of lies and betrayal, crumbled into dust. With such solid evidence of adultery and egregious financial misconduct, the divorce proceedings moved at lightning speed. At the initial hearing, Jessica, my formidable lawyer, presented a meticulous timeline of the affair, complete with the damning hotel bills, the explicit text messages, and the detailed financial records of Nathan's wasteful spending. She laid it all out, calmly, professionally, leaving no room for doubt. The judge, clearly unimpressed by Nathan's pathetic attempts at denial, ordered a swift financial discovery and an expedited divorce timeline. Nathan's financial situation spiraled from bad to worse. He was now under investigation for corporate fraud, facing potential legal action beyond the divorce. Cassandra, jobless and drowning in debt, had no choice but to move back in with our parents, her once glamorous life reduced to a humiliating existence. My parents, finally witnessing the full extent of the wreckage their favoritism had caused, tried to reconcile with me, sending tearful messages and making desperate phone calls. But I refused. I had drawn my line in the sand. I was done with their toxic enabling, their blind loyalty to Cassandra. My peace was more important than their comfort. The finality came with the signing of the divorce papers. It wasn't a grand courtroom drama, but a quiet, almost anticlimactic moment in Jessica's office. Under immense legal and financial pressure, Nathan had stopped fighting. He looked like a ghost that day, gaunt, pale, his eyes sunken. I kept the apartment, my retirement accounts, my investments, and the vast majority of our joint savings. He received his car, his personal belongings, and just enough cash to rent a small, dingy apartment. He tried to make eye contact, a flicker of something, regret? Desperation? In his eyes, but I didn't give him the satisfaction. I simply signed, stood up, and walked away, leaving him to face the ruins of his own making. The weight lifted from my shoulders was immense, a physical sensation of liberation. Through the shared trauma, Alex and I forged an unbreakable bond. We spent hours talking, sharing our pain, our anger, our disbelief. We found solace in each other's strength, in the understanding that only someone who had experienced similar betrayal could offer. Slowly, cautiously, our friendship blossomed into something more. We started dating a few months later, supporting each other through the healing process, building a new foundation based on honesty and mutual respect. We spent weekends together, not in fancy restaurants or hotels, but working on small projects, like renovating a dilapidated old shed in Rachel and James's backyard, a symbolic act of rebuilding, of creating something new and beautiful from something broken. 6 months later, the consequences for Nathan and Cassandra were stark. Nathan, his reputation in tatters, couldn't find a decent job. The corporate fraud investigation lingered, a dark cloud over his head. He eventually had to move to another city, a shadow of his former ambitious self. Cassandra was working retail at a mall, her once vibrant Instagram feed, filled with exotic vacations and designer clothes, now showed only pathetic pictures of our parents' cats. Their lives, once so perfect, were shattered beyond repair. I, on the other hand, thrived. My hard work and dedication finally paid off. I received a significant promotion at my firm, becoming an accounting director. It wasn't just a title, it was validation, a testament to my resilience and unwavering commitment to my own value. One day, a text message popped up on my phone. It was from Cassandra. "Sis," it read, "I've been thinking. We need to talk. Can we meet for coffee?" I looked at the message, then at Alex, who was sitting next to me on the couch in our newly purchased home. We had just closed on it, a beautiful, sun-drenched house with a big backyard, a fresh start, a symbol of our new life together. We took a happy selfie, our faces beaming, and I sent it back to Cassandra with a simple, unequivocal message: "Sorry, too busy enjoying life. Good luck with yours." It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about peace. Then came the final, pathetic confrontation. Cassandra showed up at the door of our new house, uninvited. She looked like a cheap imitation of her old self, her eyes wild, her hair unkempt. Alex and I watched her on the security camera, a strange mixture of pity and resolve in our hearts, as she pounded on the door. "Olivia," she shrieked, her voice raw with desperation. Are you with him? Do you think it's funny, being with my ex-boyfriend? Alex, through the intercom, replied calmly, his voice steady, ex-boyfriend, current boyfriend. An upgrade on both fronts. Cassandra lost it. She started screaming, threatening to ruin us, just like we ruined her. But her words were hollow, powerless. I called the police. She was escorted away, screaming obscenities, a pathetic figure consumed by her own bitterness. I filed a restraining order, severing the last, toxic thread that bound us. A mutual friend later told us Cassandra was still spinning her twisted narrative, telling everyone that Alex and I had planned this from the beginning, that we orchestrated their downfall. Alex and I just laughed. We knew the truth. We knew the peace we had found was earned, not stolen. Life, sometimes, has a funny way of coming full circle. Nathan and Cassandra thought they were upgrading when they started their affair, seeking a life of ease and entitlement. But now, their lives were shattered, their reputations destroyed, their futures bleak. We, on the other hand, had built something real, something beautiful. We bought a new house together, a home filled with laughter and genuine love. I finally, definitively, cut ties with my parents, who, even after everything, continued to enable Cassandra, refusing to acknowledge their own role in her destructive path. I found a new family with Alex, with Rachel and James, with the true friends who stood by me through the darkest chapter of my life. I learned that true strength isn't about how much you can endure, but how beautifully you can rebuild after everything falls apart, how you can rise from the ashes, stronger and more resilient than ever before. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I know many of you out there have faced similar betrayals, similar heartbreaks. What's one lesson you learned from a difficult experience with family or a relationship? Let me know in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more.